Like Dr. Wilcox said, we're very excited to discuss how we have integrated social media into the Texas Advertising and PR department here at UT. But before we do that, I know we all met each other very quickly, so we'll reintroduce ourselves real quick. My name is Jocelyn Lyon. My background is in media planning and buying.
My name is Shelly Harst, and my background is in public relations.
I'm Megan Gribbin, and I have a background in account management.
My name is Mary Faye, and I have a background in creative.
Matthew Lyle, I have a background in account planning.
And we're all first-year advertising graduate students. So in January, Dr. Wilcox approached us with a situation, which was if Texas Advertising and PR is touted as one of the top programs in the nation, the fact that we do not have an official social media presence kind of devalues that recognition. So the challenge we were faced with was how do we introduce the program into the social media realm? So with our diverse backgrounds and skill sets, we've been able to launch a strategy that has yielded incredible results in terms of quality and quantity of interaction. And in determining our underlying strategy, we talked to over 70 students. And we discovered that right now there's a significant communication gap, meaning that there are all these students doing great things and all these alumni doing great things, but no one knows about it. So our goal was to enhance communication and ultimately strengthen the network. But before we jump into the details of the strategy, let's first discuss who are Texas AdGrads. So Texas AdGrad is a term that's unique to our program, and it refers to any student and or alumni of Texas Advertising and PR. So I am a Texas AdGrad as much as a 1985 graduate of the program is, say, working at one of your agencies. And there are three characteristics that are unique to Texas AdGrads. First being tradition. So talk to any Texas AdGrad and they'll tell you about Advertising 318J, the legendary weed out class that everyone worked their butts off in just to get a B. And the creative students and alumni, they can reminisce together about all the arduous hours they spent spray mounting their ads on their phone core and cutting that phone core. And the media students, they can share stories about all of the long all-nighters they pulled just to meet that 5 p.m. deadline for Radio Shack's national media plan. So these are stories. These are traditions that only resonate with Texas AdGrads. Next is brand affiliation. So you're all probably very familiar with the die-hard loyalty Longhorns have to UT. And you can see that today with our clothing ensembles. So the fan following for Texas Advertising and PR is very similar. When two strangers or individuals meet and discover that they're both Texas AdGrads, there's an instant connection, an instant bond. And in a way, there's a natural inclination and bias towards Texas AdGrads within our network. And third is global network. There are Texas AdGrads all around the world at many levels of many different organizations. In fact, I remember walking into Chicago, which is in the same building as Leo Burnett, walking to Starcom Media Fest in Chicago, same building, and almost every floor had at least one Longhorn flag flying out from someone's cue. And I soon discovered that the managing partner and the CEO, they were also Texas AdGrads. So there's an immense potential for people to network and connect with each other. So this is who Texas AdGrads are. But where do they fall into the bigger picture? When we look at the program and what makes it what it is today, it's ultimately the Texas AdGrads themselves. It's the alumni, who are today SVPs at global agencies, who are contributing to the reputation and the recognition of the program. And it's the students who are producing forward-thinking work, who are presenting that work to class clients and in interviews, who are preserving the high standards and quality of education. And it's the professors who are inspiring and motivating students to make sure they remain curious and reach their potential. So it's very much an interdependent relationship in that the program is producing all these great Texas AdGrads, but it's the AdGrads who are sharing their talent with the world. So they are providing momentum to move this program wheel. But you will see that the Texas AdGrad wheel is kind of limping. It's because of these missing arms on the wheel. And these missing arms are missing communication touch points. So the relationship between these two wheels are a little bit weak right now. Each wheel is having to work harder than they actually have to. So how do we address this communication gap? How do we close it? By bringing in social media. By bringing in Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, we're able to unify the network, and we're able to create, ultimately, an engaging trialogue between students, alumni, and the program itself. And by doing so, we're providing much more power to move both of these wheels at an efficient rate. And so this is an overview of our strategy, but Shelly is going to go into the research that we delved into to determine this.
Great, thanks Jocelyn. So we started out with some secondary research to see what social media spaces would be most appropriate for Texas AdGrad to enter into. Great. So how many you have a Twitter account? Hands? Okay, good to hear. Well, Twitter is a really unique medium in that it offers users real-time data. Their users are constantly logging in and out to see real-time updates. And because of this viral nature, it really is a great word-of-mouth vehicle. However, with this real-time nature, your information quickly gets lost in the clutter, and you only do have 140 characters to communicate with your audience. Next, we looked at Facebook. How many of you have a Facebook account? Okay, great. Facebook is one of the fastest growing social media. Good to know. Well, it is one of the fastest growing and largest social media platforms, so we couldn't ignore looking at its presence for Texas AdGrad. It has really dynamic platforms where students can upload pictures and video and really engage in longer conversations than you could do on Twitter. However, users are becoming increasingly a little bit skeptical about advertising and promotion in the space, and if your organization doesn't offer relevant content to the users, it can get lost in the clutter and become stagnant. Finally, we looked at LinkedIn. How many of you have a LinkedIn page? Well, as you'll know, that it's essentially an online collection of resumes and your work experience. It's a really great platform for you to keep up with your past colleagues and clients and really see what everyone's background is that you're looking into working with. However, it is a smaller network, and whenever you're on that network, you're really only encouraged to connect with people that you know personally and know well. So after looking at all these social networks, we wanted to see what comparable advertising programs and portfolio schools are doing in the social media space. We looked at almost over a dozen schools to see if they had a presence on LinkedIn or Facebook and Twitter, and also to see if they had any internal blogs. However, 4 schools really stood out as being top programs that we saw as having really cohesive social media presences. It's important to note that these 4 schools, Miami Ad School, VCU Brand Center, Creative Circus, and Portfolio Center, are all really small programs, and they have a lot more funding since they are privately owned. So that gives Texas a little bit of a disadvantage in being a state university. However, Miami Ad School really stood out as being the top program. They had a really cohesive presence on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and they really engaged with their audience to give them information and relevant content that was useful to their students. It was really important for us to look at our competitors to see what they're doing in the space, to make sure that we're up to par with the other top schools out there, and also see what types of information that students are really looking for. And speaking of our students, we surveyed about 70 graduate students in the program. We initially researched graduate students because of its smaller size, and also being graduate students ourselves, it was easier to get a great sample. We had some great responses, as Gary mentioned in the beginning. We have about 200 students, so we almost got half of our students' response rate, which is really great. We wanted to find out more about their social media presence and see where they are in the digital world. We found 100% of our students surveyed are on Facebook, 66% are on LinkedIn, and 61% are on Twitter. So this gave us a great idea of the spaces they're in and what we can do to engage them in those spaces. We asked them about their expectations for Texas advertising in the program. They gave us some really great advice, some expected, some not. They told us that we needed to have a purpose, we needed to have a strategy, and that we shouldn't be in a space just to be in the space. We couldn't let it be stagnant, we had to keep up the interactions. And since we are Texas advertising, we needed to execute it exceptionally. We are the top program, and we only expect top quality from our students and the program itself. Students also really mentioned that they wanted to network with our alumni. They know that we produce great students and that there's a really powerful network out there that they can interact with that can help them really further their career. They also mentioned it might be neat to really share the type of work that they're doing in school, so that way we can share with advertising professionals, recruiters, and alumni the type of work that we do in our coursework. And finally, with highlighting our student work, we can really foster important relationships that will help them at the professional level. So after looking at all these insights, the main issue was, will they actually join us? We had really positive numbers going in, and 78% of our students said they would be at least somewhat likely to follow us in the social network. And as I mentioned before, we did our research with only the graduate students. However, when we launched, we thought it was critical to also include the undergraduate students in the program because of their size and strength in numbers, And essentially, a Texas AdGrad is a Texas AdGrad, regardless whether you completed the undergraduate program or the graduate program. So this really laid a great foundation for our content strategy. We came up with 4 different categories that would really engage the students and give them the type of content that they're looking for. We first wanted to do the Student Alumni Spotlight to show everyone how great our students are and the caliber of work that we produce, and also share success stories of our advertising professionals out there in the world. Next, we wanted to share industry news, whether it's at a local level if GSD&M picks up a new account, or on a national level to see how agencies are trying to develop content for the new iPad. And third, probably our most important content strategy that students voiced was job and internship postings. We feel that social media would be a really great platform to help students network and find career opportunities. And finally, we wanted to share some social events about student advertising organizations in Austin and really help improve student life. Next, I'll pass this over to Megan, and she'll share with you a little bit more about our timeline and our mission for the program.
So with the capabilities of social media these days and the needs of our program and the AdGrad network that Jocelyn talked about, we decided our mission should be to connect AdGrads to each other through the relevant and beneficial content delivered on our social media networks. First, we introduced Twitter. Twitter is our real-time connection, our day-to-day conversation with the AdGrad followers. The launch date was perfect, right before spring break and South by Southwest, so there was plenty of people logged on and plenty of content to share about the happenings around town. There were a few reasons why we decided to do Twitter first. First, it was the least involved process to launch. You just pick the topics, which Shelley mentioned, and we tweet about them. Also, because it was our lowest number for active users, according to our survey, we thought that we could garner a good idea of the response we would get with our social media presence. We also thought that Twitter was a great place to launch our other social media networks because even though the numbers were small, the people involved in Twitter are usually more social media savvy, so they would adapt faster and create a great following for the rest of the program. Next, we launched LinkedIn. LinkedIn is our most professionally strengthening asset. It is also the only network that is exclusive to Texas AdGrads. It requires low maintenance, and it's usually more heavily utilized during certain times of the year, such as graduation. Hence, our perfect timing mid-semester. Soon-to-be grads are heavily job-seeking, and internship deadlines are fast approaching. So everybody was excited for our LinkedIn page for our job postings and whatnot. Last, we launched Facebook to round out our well-established presence in the social media realm. Facebook is our most visual content provider as well as social content provider. We launched this in time for our newly admitted Texas AdGrads coming in next fall to actually see what the program is all about. And as you can see, as we got more involved over the timeline, the interaction grew on each network. As Jocelyn mentioned, Texas AdGrads are made up of tradition, brand affiliation, and global networks. So it was really important for us to strategically decide which content was delivered where. With Twitter, we use this as our base of communication. So we decided to use all 4 types of topics that we decided on. And Facebook and LinkedIn are more of our enhancing layers, so they have more targeted topics to talk about. With LinkedIn, we had our job postings and industry news discussions, which Mary will go into later. And lastly, Facebook was our social media, our social event calendar, as well as our visual showcase. So Mary and Matt will now go into how we executed our strategy.